Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Between Sermons. I know you're looking at the camera, you're looking at this clip, and you're like, you are not Pastor Brent. I am not. Pastor Brent is away on missions, and we are still praying for him and his team. But today, you guys are stuck with me, Tiheasha Beasley. I will be hosting this episode of Between Sermons, and I am so excited because I have by my side two of my girls, Pastor Chris and Ari. Welcome.
Okay, remind me of my name, please.
Pastor Saul, and you're my friend. You're my sister's sister. And you know why I said Pastor Chris? Because
she's in Turkey with Brent?
Yeah, she's in Turkey, and you're like a sister to me. So I always call you Soul, and I never really say Pastor unless I'm being official.
Gotcha.
So I have my sister with me, Pastor Soul, and Ari. Ari looked at me like, Pastor Chris, and I thought I did something wrong, and I did. So I apologize.
It's no big deal.
I apologize. No. I am so excited to be here. How are you guys feeling?
I'm doing well.
I'm doing well. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a complex topic, right? Because the movie was very like, I love SpiderMan. You highlighted SpiderMan yesterday. I love that movie. It's full of energy. It's full of excitement. But then we're talking about like difficult topics from SpiderMan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for people that don't know, we have been in this series at our church called At the Movies, where we take movies that have been coming out recently and we try to extract biblical principles from them. Yes. You know, it is not preaching the movie. It is not trying to get the storyline and what Hollywood is trying to tell us with their movies. It is not like that. It is just using little clips of the movie to illustrate a biblical principle and what we can learn from them, you know, because honestly, Hollywood, they are great storytellers. Mm-hmm. They do a very good job at pulling you in with a story. And we know that people enjoy movies. Yes. So we were trying to do something a little different. We've been doing that for a few years. And yeah, Spider-Man was different. I had to say that it was not my favorite movie from all of the ones that we did.
Really?
No.
Why?
I am not a superhero person.
Okay.
Especially when it is complicated. Mm-hmm. You know, like if I can just watch a movie that I don't need to know background, that I don't need to be following timelines, and this is the guy from the so-and-so universe, and this is the guy, like I don't have the brain space to follow all of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was my issue with Spider-Man. Like it was like it's too much happening. It is too many universes. It is too many things that I didn't know and that I was supposed to know so that I can understand what's happening. It was just like, okay. Like I kept asking my husband every 2 seconds, so what are they? What are they doing? and then the movie was not like real life. It's more like animated. Like it's beautiful artwork.
It is.
Very beautiful.
But I remember one of the first thing I had was like, is the whole movie gonna be like this? Because I was expecting like people, and I never saw people. It was a thing. But
it was a thing.
And then at the end, like, if spoiler alert, have you seen the movie?
Yes.
Have you seen the movie?
I love it.
All of a sudden, like, I am trying to, you know, like, I am, like, in the movie, trying to understand it, trying to come up with things, and all of a sudden, it's to be continued. And I looked at my husband, and I was like, is this, like, over like that?
Right.
No.
It ended bad, and I looked at Neo, my son, when I was watching it, and I was like, is this how it ends? Like, he's like, there's a part 2 coming. I'm like, really? I don't want to wait for this part 2. Like, I need to know.
I want to be continued immediately. That's what.
See, I love that part. I love the to be continued because I feel like it mirrors real life, right? Like you have these like challenges and then you get through that one like gauntlet of challenges and then it's like, oh shoot, it's another thing coming.
Yes.
And so like you got to prepare for that. So I love that part of it.
Oh, that was a good perspective. Look at Ari coming through with her perspective.
The suspense of it all. I'm like, just tell me already.
Right.
Yeah, but that, I mean, we have the suspense of life. Like,
it's true.
You always have something coming next. So I love the to be continued in movies because it's like, okay, what are we waiting on? But whatever we're waiting on, we know it's going to be good.
So you like cliffhangers and like in series, like TV stuff.
Oh,
it hurts my heart.
Oh my gosh, that was a good perspective, and it also leads us into kind of like, why did we choose the topic to like focus on like life and when life happens and when bad things happen in life? Like, how do we get to that place with the sermon?
So when we were listening to the dialogue, which honestly there's not a ton of dialogue in this movie, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of music, because it's very artistic, so there's not a lot of just conversation. But the very first thing that got through us was the whole "you are not the only one." You know, like she keeps talking about how he was bitten by a radioactive spider, but he was not the only one. And he experienced all of these events, but he was not the only one. And he feels alone, but he's not the only one. And then you go from that to this scene where this guy is talking about how all of the Spider-Man are connected and all of them are experiencing life, basically, you know. And he's saying there's some stuff that is good, there's some stuff that is bad, and there's some stuff that is really bad. And it's kind of like you just have to accept it because you're gonna live it. So that, I think that's when we're like, we can definitely identify with that. You know, there's stuff in our lives that is gonna be good, and there's stuff in our lives that is not gonna be good, and there's stuff that is gonna be plain terrible, and there's nothing you can do about it.
So I really loved how you guys took the movie and kind of chopped it up into little pieces. But what I want to start with is, the first question is, we talked about life and how life be lifing, and I love how you put in the perspective that life is a continuation. Do you, Ari, I'll start with Ari first. Do you, Ari, can you recall a moment in your life where you felt like, man, there is going to be a part two, like God is still writing this story?
Oh, man. Yes, I would say like probably my most recent example of this is like my husband being in school. I feel like we, even like preparing to get married, we did a lot to like prepare around school because we knew it would be the goal. Like, he's going to be a doctor. Like, we need to prepare to like start our lives around that. And then, so it was that hurdle. So once he got into school, then it's like, okay, how do we live life as a married couple while you're in school, and then while you're not working, and while I'm carrying, you know, the household bills and all of that, while still navigating to be like newlyweds and like really becoming one. And then now we're in the phase of like, he's graduated, he's starting his job, but what does our life look like now that he is done with this thing that we've been planning and like preparing our lives around? And so it's just been a really weird season. He started his job last week and I still don't even feel like it's real because it's been hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And so now it's like, okay, we're walking in this promise that God has given us. However, it still doesn't feel real because it feels like there's another hurdle, and technically there is. He has to like pass his boards and all of that, but it's just been this continuation of like, we wanted this, we prayed for this, there are the obstacles to get there, and like it's one after another and it's continuing, but we're coming to the end of that. And so like learning how to live after that part has been really interesting. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out every day. So yeah, I would say,
man, like the first thing that came to my mind, just as a wife and as, you know, someone who has been married, I've been married now for 13 years. You stated that one of the hurdles you had to overcome was like you carrying the load. What did that do to you and your mental space? Like, where did that take you?
You know, honestly, it just fortified in me that I was made to do this, right? Made to be his wife, made to be just a woman of God who can support this type of man of God. Because I think there are, you know, different people, there are different paths, and yes, you bring them together, but it takes teamwork, and it takes a certain set of skills to be able to handle each other's load and carry each other's burdens. So I learned a lot about myself of like, man, I was made to do this, and man, I can handle all of this, and I can still praise God, and I can still show up for my family and my friends, and I can still show up for myself. And so it was really hard. I had to learn balance, which was a huge part of that season. And God taught me so much about balancing his way, but also I learned a lot about myself as like, man, I'm really strong and I can carry myself, I can carry him, I can carry our household, and I can still show up. And I can't wait to see what that looks like in future seasons of my life.
And I feel like that is so beautiful, though, because it is the true example of two becoming one. You know, you're not just looking after yourself. It is not just well, you do your thing, I do my thing. We will figure it out.
Right.
What has to be in the middle, but it is truly saying we're in this together. So if right now we're gonna prioritize what you have to do, we are in this together. You know, so it is not it's his thing that he has to figure it out. It is his thing that we are gonna figure it out. You know, and that is gonna prepare you for the next stage. I just love it. It's beautiful.
I think that is beautiful, and it's a beautiful example that we see in the body of Christ. But culture is definitely opposite to that.
Yes.
So how did you stand strong in a world that says that a woman should be independent, and if a man's not carrying his own, like, you need to move on? Like, what did you pull on when you had moments like that?
You know, I think it was easier because in some ways I agree with culture. I've always been a very independent woman with goals, and also I've always had men in my life who did what they needed to do to provide for their families. And so that sacrifice was a little hard, even with, even my family of like, you're our baby girl, you're the only child, you're the first grandchild, like you've never really wanted for anything. So now you're stepping into this life where you're taking care of everything. Like, we're a little worried, we're a little nervous about that. And so one thing that I do know is that I had to come to the realization that he has a plan for us, right? Like, I know God gave me this particular man because like, even that story, like, God led me to Ola, and we're supposed to be together, but also it made it easy because Ola is a man with a plan. And so, like, even when we decided to get married, he said, listen, I'm going to school, that's my goal, but you're also my goal. So here's what we're going to do. This is the day I plan to marry you, and that's what we're going to do. And so we planned to get married before we had even gotten engaged, because he knew this is what I want to do. And so that was easy to follow. And so I had to keep that top of mind of like, he has a plan for us, and God had a plan for me when leading me this way. And so, like, I can trust in that, but also knowing that, like, God has never failed me.
Yes.
He's never failed me. And so I can walk through the difficult times and know, like, yes, this is hard. Yes, this is difficult, but there is the end goal, and God has never failed me. So he's not going to start now, especially when the promise on the other side of this is so great, right? So, I think those are the things.
Yeah, that's really good. And what about you, sister? Like, can you remember?
I had many more questions for Ari.
Let's do it.
It was the hot seat. I was like, I want to know.
Let's know. I mean, Ari, we are putting you on the seat because, I mean, that's such a strong testament of God's faithfulness. So, yes. I mean, what's another question you have for Ari?
What I was going to say was, I think that sometimes it's easy or not easier, I guess, to follow a plan like that, because you know that there's gonna be a season. Like, the season is over.
Good.
Like you can stand by Ola and say, okay, we're gonna support this because it's 4 years. Like, it's gonna be 4 years of, I have to do a little more, I have to show up a little more, but then after that, there's gonna come like a different season, right? But what happens when you don't know when the season is ending?
That's so good.
Like, when you're like, I know that I am at this, and that I have to show up, and that I have to do, and I don't know when this is gonna be over.
That's amazing. And honestly, like, his was temporary, right? But I think we all have seasons where we don't know when it's going to end, right? So, like, we can apply some of those same things, like whether it's being ill or having, a job or not a job or whatever, or going through motherhood or whatever it is. Like, a lot of them don't end. They just pivot, or they just change a little bit. And so I think as you are reminding yourself of like, okay, seasons do change, things do pivot, like I just need to stay faithful, I need to stay strong in these areas, I think it's a little easier than like dreading and like dragging through the season of like, man, when is this gonna end? When is this gonna end? And it's okay to feel those feelings, but I think when you are keeping top of mind, like seasons change, it's a little easier. Even imagining yourself at the end of that season can help. Like, I think the dreaming part comes in, right? Like, what will life look like on the other side of this? Okay, I can endure a little longer. I can keep going. I can do this. But also having community to share that burden, I think is super important, because I couldn't have made it without my friends praying for me. I couldn't have made it without my mom and my, dad and my family's support. And I couldn't have made it without Ola saying like, I know it's rough and we are in this together. Let's just sit and soak in this. And sometimes we had to cry. Sometimes we had to pray and fast and, get through it, but we did it together. And so I think that makes it easier when you have people to share the burden with, no matter how long the season is.
Yeah, it makes me think about a story about one very similar to you and me and David. David was in school for his occupation. Now he was going to school for occupational therapy, and I remember he won't mind me sharing this, and if I come up missing after this, y'all know why. No, I'm just playing.
We got you.
We're gonna put a timestamp for David to just skip to that point.
Skip this part. But he ended up taking the test. He had a job in the occupational field. They give you a job before you even pass the test. And so he graduated, he got offered a job, and he was working, and it was going to turn into a permanent position once he passed the test. Little did we know he failed the test with this new job, and so they let him go. And at the time I was working part-time, so I mean my check for every 2 weeks was like $500. So you're talking about $1,000 a month. And so we went from like having that little bit of more income with my part-time and losing that all. And I remember I was working at the courthouse at the time, and my heel broke. It was tragic. My heel broke. It broke while I was walking. And this is just to give you a setup of how much we did not have. And I remember going to Walmart trying to find some heels, and like the shoes I wanted to get was like $20, and we did not even have $20. And I remember calling like my boss saying, I can't come back to work because my heel is broke. I don't have any money to get another pair of shoes, and going home for the day. And I remember crying, and David was like, it's gonna be okay, we're gonna be okay. And it was just a really difficult time because we had enough to live, like to stay in our apartment and maybe eat some food, not even go out, but just eat some food. And he ended up taking the test again, failing. So this was like this season was taking us out at this point because we didn't know when it was going to change. And then he took it the third time and passed it, and that was a great moment. And I remember him saying, like, giving me some money and saying, hey, go buy some heels. It was just it was a good moment. But I remember just not even realizing we were out of the season. That was so difficult. That was so hard. It was like a pivot just happened where one day it was like we were just looking at what we had, praying to God and asking God to cover it, to the next day just being like, oh, we just bought another car. How did we just buy another car? I can go to the store, we can get some shoes. And it was just a moment where we didn't have a countdown. We was just trusting God that he would pass that test and we would get out of that season. But I think for a lot of people maybe watching, it may be that season where it's like, it's no countdown. I don't know when this is going to change. I don't know when my husband is going to get a job. I don't know when I'm going to get a job. There might be someone watching who is a single mother. And maybe just a difficult season. And so I love how the sermon yesterday focused on things that we should not do in those seasons, because we can all go down a rabbit hole.
We're good at that.
We're good. We're good at that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, I know that there's a list, and I'm gonna have us read through those things later. But like, when you guys were planning the sermon, why did we take the angle of like, here's a list of things that we should not do when we're in these difficult situations? Because we could have went a different way with the sermon, right?
Yeah.
So why did we go that way with?
So honestly, it was funny because after we finished the list, it was a lot of don'ts. So we're like, is it gonna be like negative, like don't. But but it was for us this idea of all of the things that we tend to gravitate towards when things are going bad, you know. And it didn't come from just the movie, but it came from our own experience. You know, like if you were a part of our message yesterday, or if you saw it, the points that we took, like each for us to actually explain them, we took them because like I was like I can actually talk about that because that's what I experience and that's what I gravitate towards. So I know what I have to be working on in my own life.
Yeah,
you know. So we wanted to be able to put it in the I guess in the negative, in the don't, to give you a do. You know. So don't isolate. Get with people. You know. Don't just bottle up your feelings. Talk about it. Like it is this idea of this is what you should not do, but this is also what you should do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we went that way. And we were a little nervous. We were like, we don't want it to sound negative. We don't want it to feel naggy. We just want to really help people see the danger of just acting out in the things that you feel when things are not going well.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so good.
And it was so good because they were reminders, right? Like you could be going through a rough season right now, and hearing that message, you would be reminded of, hey, like maybe I have been doing this week. Okay, let me change this. Like I shouldn't be isolating myself. I need to talk to my friends or do those things. So I think it was a really good reminder for people. Yeah, it was just really good. Yeah.
So let's pull up the list, Ari. Let's talk about some of those don'ts, because it was just really good how you laid it out. So I want to kind of dig into those a little bit deeper. So let's read. Number 1.
Okay, so number 1, don't isolate.
Okay.
Number 2, don't hit your feelings with sticks.
And that was like a movie playoff, right?
Yeah, it was a movie playoff. So it was basically don't just ignore your feelings. You know, there's times that you try to numb yourself out of feeling, so you ended up just saturating yourself with something else in order to discharge those feelings so that you don't feel them.
Yeah.
You know, so like this girl is like just drumming all crazy, and then she's like, I'm not here to talk about my feelings, I'm here to hit them with sticks.
Right.
You know, so it's like, okay, yeah, like that's what we do in our own lives.
That is so true.
So it was a play on words because of the movie, but it is truly what we all do.
Yeah. It may not, like you said, it may not be sticks, but it can be like over shopping or being addicted to something you do to help yourself cope with that traumatic situation you're going through.
Overeating, social media, like watching TV until you not sleeping.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's good.
Number 3, don't bottle it up.
I can see that.
Number 4, don't play the blame game.
Okay.
Number 5, don't listen to the negative voice. And number 6, don't ignore the good things. And the last one is don't forget to turn to God.
Woo. Okay, so everyone has to share their favorite one, or not favorite, maybe one that you had to not do in seasons that were difficult.
Okay. I think that for me will definitely be all about the emotions. You know, I think that it is hard for me to open up, and it is hard for me to allow myself to feel. I remember growing up, my mom, I love my mom. She was an amazing woman, and she was always with us. Like, she was truly my best friend. But growing up, I was the emotional kid. You know, like I was it. I was a kid that would always cry. That would
I
always
can't see that.
like at all, right? Like I was the dramatic one. Like I will get a little bruise and I will literally like circle it so that my dad, when he came back from work, he will be able to see it because they will disappear. It's like you hit and just get something, and I was like, he needs to see where I hurt. Like I was that child.
Oh my gosh.
And it was a lot of times that I would play with my brother, and then I would end up crying because 2-year older brother, he was stronger than me, so we will play rough, and you end up hurt. And I will always end up crying. I will always end up just tattletaling and stuff. And I remember my mom always telling me, aguántate como los machos, like be a man, like just take it as a man. So she kept saying, like if you're gonna play rough, you have to take it. Like you cannot go and play with them and then come crying. Like if you're gonna play, you gotta take it. So fast forward for many years, and I understand the frustration, because now I have a little girl that comes crying every 2 seconds, and I'm like, girl, like that was like nothing happened to you.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I can understand her point in saying, really, just take it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times that I'm sure that I was just coming with nonsense.
Yeah.
But I think that in her desire of making me to just process my feelings, what it actually ended up happening for me is that I learned to just take it. So just take it. Like you don't have to be talking about it. You don't have to be telling everybody about it. You don't have to be crying about it. So I think that that's, for me, it's very hard. Like even up to my marriage, like if you ask my husband what I struggle with the most, is talking about our issues. Like I don't want to talk about it. Like, let's just not. Like let's just be friends. Let's just be happy. Like we will forget in 5 minutes. No worries. So I think that is the thing. And it for me, like I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to appear vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it is not because I don't have the feelings or because I fear what other people are gonna think. It is because it's just take it.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
So I think we need to sign Pastor Sol up for some therapy sessions.
Listen,
Friends, we can't just be out here taking it. It's so sharing is caring.
Yeah, and I've been working hard on it. Okay. I have been working hard on being able to be more open in everything, because I think that that's something that has been good, is the fact that thankfully I have a husband that doesn't let me to just hide. He is like, no, we're gonna talk about it.
Oh,
no, you
good.
need to reach out to somebody. Like the amount of times that he is like, text somebody like right now, and he's just staring at me, and I'm like, okay, like I don't want to tell nobody about anything. The fact that we have people that pray for us, and there's times that they are like, what, do you have any prayer requests? I'm like, no. And then Kenya is like, okay, I'm going to call you. And I'm like, okay. And then she calls me and she's asking me about every single detail of my life.
Wow.
Until she's like, so you do have prayer requests? I'm like, I guess so.
Oh, wow.
Like it is like people that just kind of pull things out.
Yes.
I think that has been very helpful for me, because there's times that naturally might not come out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I remember Brent and I struggled financially a lot when we first got married. Like we didn't have money. Like we didn't have none. Like we didn't have nothing.
Our husbands came up, right?
Like, listen. We were
I had broken heels. You had
like we will look at the pantry and be like,
right.
Okay, so I guess we're having a tortilla with wherever that is,
Right.
And I remember, like, I always told Brent, like, don't tell anybody. Like nobody should know that we're struggling. And he was like, but I can ask my dad. I'm like, no, don't ask him for $5. Like no.
Wow.
Like, because it was one of those, like, you just deal with it.
Yes.
And I am glad that he didn't listen to me very much, and he was like, I'm gonna still do it. And I am grateful that God was always provided and stuff, but it is just, it's hard for me. Like, it is hard for me to just open up and just be vulnerable. So there's times that I'm start being vulnerable, and then I'm like, it's just like all of it comes out. I'm like, I'm sorry, I got too much inside of me.
What does that do to your relationship and like your prayer life with God? That's what I was wondering as you were talking, because like, do you open up easily in prayer to him?
do.
Or okay.
I do, and I think that that's something that I have always found beautiful about God, you know, that I have never felt like I cannot come to him.
That's good.
Like I have always felt safe. But there's a lot of times that I have to even pray and say, God, I don't even know why I feel this way.
Yeah.
Because processing my emotions had never been simple.
Yeah.
It was never like, why do you feel that way? It was just like, take it, stop it,
Oh
stop
my
crying
gosh.
already. You know?
Wow.
You know, like it was, and again, I don't want to paint my mom like an
No.
evil person because she was
No.
the best.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's just those little things that, like,
Yeah.
like I am tired of you crying every time you play, so
Yeah.
just stop it, right? So I have to be very careful with even what I say to my children.
yes.
Like I remember my oldest, he used to cry for everything. Now he's a teenager. He's teenaging, right? Like he doesn't have any feelings anymore. So now I'm like, can you cry, please? Like I would love to see you
Some
cry.
emotions.
Yes, because like now, like he's a teenager and he's just not wanting to feel anything. It's that's just odd. But I remember when he was growing up, there were times that I was like, why is he crying all the time? Like, my goodness, you know, but I had to be careful and even to put in him the whole, like, you're a boy, you're not going to cry, stuff like that. Like, I was like, no, like, if you need to cry, I guess you gotta cry. Like, it's okay. Like, but it was difficult. It was difficult because it just, I don't know, it's different. But yeah, with God, I feel safe.
Good.
And I have always felt safe. I have always felt like I can come and say stuff. And you know, when you're just all full of everything and you come to God and you immediately start feeling the peace and the release and you kind of feel like you can process things. I even have gotten the blessing of being able to pray and just feel the Holy Spirit say, I think that you need to work on this a little more. Like you need more work, child.
Yes.
I feel so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the Holy Spirit that can show me when I am praying and saying, I don't understand why I feel this way.
Right.
That he can say, hey, have you considered this? Because that opens my eyes and it makes me work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And different things. Yeah.
That was so good. And it just reminds me of, like, I don't want to say that what your mom installed in you was trauma, but it reminds me in a way, like how as an adult, these things start to come out of us that we heard or learned from when we were a child. And that's how we cope and that's how we deal with things. And so that was a good nugget to just reflect on. If you are someone who, you know, just find yourself just taking things, like maybe ask God to reveal to you, like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Like, yeah, no, I do think that we all need to be able to be free in our emotions.
Live free.
Like, no, seriously, we all need to live free with our emotions. And that doesn't mean that you just let your emotions lead the way, because that is not healthy either. But being able to identify how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, it's important. Because then that's when you can surrender to God, or you can find help, or you can try to talk to somebody, or whatever that next step for you is according to what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. But if you never know and you never identify anything, then you will not know what needs help or how you can get better. And then it is just a constant cycle of it because you don't know how to break it.
That's good.
So I think that it is important for us to be self-aware, to take account of what you're thinking and what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way, you know, and just all of the different things around, like for us girls, like even the time of the month, because there's times that you just feel things and you're like, oh, it wasn't even that serious, but it felt really serious at the moment, you know. But there's some stuff that it just plain serious. So so how do you navigate those? It's very important.
And I think even just listening to you, what I was reminded of is that a lot of adults are in survival mode all the time. And then also, like, if you're in survival mode and you're parenting at the same time, like you are trying to prepare your kids to survive too. And so it may come out in the way that kind of your mom said of like, just take it, right? Because that's protection, and that prepares you for adulthood in the real world and surviving like difficult things. And so I think I've experienced that even with my own parents. And so I have done the work as an adult to like realize like, no, I recognize when my mom said that or when my dad said that, they were surviving. They weren't really in a space to like even help me navigate that. And so I can forgive on the backside of that, and I can move forward in knowing like, hey, like, make sure you're not in survival mode before you speak or before you counsel or before you try to give someone that advice. So
No, that's good.
No, that's really good. And let's lean into your I won't say bad habit, but
The thing you struggle with.
the thing you struggle with when you are in difficult situations. What do you kind of lean towards?
Mine would be the don't forget the good things one. I think so. This is something that I feel like the Lord has been working on me, especially in my adulthood. I feel like majority of my life, like I said, was really, really good. And so I feel like a lot as a kid, what I picked up from other people is that I didn't have the right to like feel or complain because my life was so good in so many different other ways. And so I started pushing some of the good out because it was just kind of like, okay, well, like this is always good. Like my parents are great. My support system is great. These things. Let's focus on the bads because this is always good.
Wow.
And so like I've had to learn how to bring that back in and not feel even guilty sometimes for having a good foundation. And these things are bad, but let's not forget what's good because that helps you get through the bad. And so I've had to kind of navigate that as an adult. So if I'm thinking like, hey, and this would be like a recent example. So because like I said, I was the breadwinner for the first 4 years of our marriage. Like there would be times where I would need a little extra and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this feels so like I feel broke. I feel like this. I feel like I can't handle it. And man, like I can't take this. And I'm focusing on all of the bad things. But then I felt like the Holy Spirit would always remind me like, but you have a support system that they would do anything for you. And if you just call right now, it'll be taken care of. But my pride could not let me, and my trauma couldn't let me call, or like the guilt of having a support system. And so I would sit there for like hours and like try to get the strength or the courage to like ask, because it's like, okay, I have the good things and I know that, but like I'm in the bad and I'm trying to get through it and be strong and rely on God, when all he was telling me was, but I gave you these people to rely on too. And so I had to remember that. And so yes, that is, I would say, the one that I have to like work on the most.
That's so good. Thanks for sharing.
Yes.
Both of you. Thanks for sharing.
and I don't know. I feel personally with that one that I have a pretty good life. I have had. I truly cannot complain. I had wonderful parents. I have a good family. I got married and I got a great husband that has always put me first and loves me, and I have good kids. And I don't know if that felt like that to you as well, because talking about having all of the good stuff, sometimes it makes me feel guilty.
Yes.
When somebody comes and is telling me all of the rough that they experience, to the point that I am trying to find something that is not going right, so that I'm like, see, me too, like I also have issues.
Yeah.
And it was something that God was dealing with me, because I'm like, you should not like just be grateful for the good stuff, because there were times that I will be like, oh, like listening to somebody that you know, was struggling in their marriage. And then I'm like, well, you know, like, well, Brand sometimes plays video games.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know,
Yes.
you know, like you're trying to find
Trying to
something.
relate.
Like, I'm like, yeah, exactly. And instead of just simply be there for them, you're trying to say, yeah, me too. Like, I can understand. And there's times that we don't understand, and it's okay to not understand and just support.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. That has been a challenge. I cannot say that I'm there. Like, we were very, very tight financially for a long time, and right now we are in an okay position. We're not rich, you know. Like, if you want to donate some money to my charity, no, but like, we're not rich.
We're not gonna be able to do the podcast anymore. Brandon's like, y'all talk and share too much.
Like, no, but like, we're better than we have ever been. And I remember talking to somebody, and that person was talking about how they sometimes don't have enough, and they were excited to come to the house, and always felt like, you know, you have like the extra drinks and the extra this and the extra that. And I immediately went to, it was cheap. Like, you know, instead of just being like, okay, like, it was just $1. You know, like, you try to minimize the fact that it was a good thing. And it's just God just like, really, like, can you just take the blessing and just continue blessing others instead of being like, well, it was nothing, you know? I don't know. It's hard sometimes.
Yeah. I like everything you said, I can relate to, and I feel like the Lord has been working on me in that area, because it's just like, you don't want to play up the good things all the time so that people don't feel like they can't relate to you. And I've been there where it's like, okay, well, Ari always has good things going on, so like, I'm not going to talk to her because she can't relate. And that has made me feel isolated as a friend, or, you know, someone in somebody's life, and the not getting to be there for someone else because they felt like I couldn't relate, that stuck with me for years, and it really hurt. And so I think what that did was train me to not look at, thank God I can't relate, because the Lord has blessed me in this area, and he's favored me in this area, and I have, you know, the things that I need to have to survive. But it's okay even if they don't feel like I can relate to them, because I can relate to someone else. Like, there's always someone else that will need my wisdom or my guidance or my friendship or my support, and I have to be okay with that. So,
or maybe God wants to use that opportunity for you to be hope, or provide like encouragement, or even offer wisdom for situations where you're no longer there. Like, for example, because I used to do that with the husband all the time. Like, talk to a girl and she's complaining about her husband. I'm like, yeah, and David, he didn't take out the trash. And you know what? You're right. Like, these husbands don't care. and it was something very similar I got convicted on. And God was like, why do you keep making your husband something? And then, you know what happens? He really does start doing things to annoy me when you make those confessions, and you're like, yeah, you're right, my husband don't love me. And then you're like, you didn't say I look pretty today. And he's like, where is this coming from? And it's because we are saying these things to make ourselves more relatable, when really maybe I should have just taken the time to be like, you know what, I think your husband, he does love you. This may be a difficult season for him, or what's different in his life that's causing like stress, or, you know, something like that, instead of just finding that.
Or just being there.
You know? Just being there. Pastors are like, or just being there. Like, you're saying all this stuff, just be there. So yeah, I love that. And for me, how I cope, well, not cope, but how I deal with things when things are difficult, I have to be very careful on not complaining. I think that's like a default for me, and I have to be very intentional to be like, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to focus on the good things I have going on, because God has been good, and not complain, because somehow I feel like my complaints are magical. Like, in my mind, I feel like if I complain enough, things will change. You know?
That's good.
So it's like,
does that work?
it was really like manipulation I was trying to do. Didn't know that. Got set free from that. Got set free. But it's like we can't complain our way out of a situation, especially like in marriage or in friendships or in tough situations. We can't manipulate God. Right? So we can't, and a lot of times when we're complaining, we're saying, God, why are you doing this? Without saying, why are you doing this? We're telling God, like, you let this hard season happen for me. You allowed this door to be closed. You know, that's what we're saying when we're saying, God, I just, I wish that I could live better, or, you know what I mean? We're complaining and we're somehow trying to manipulate what we feel like God did to us. And which leads me to another question does bad things happen to believers? Is that something that we are exempt from when we become a new believer, or should we just buckle up because it's going to get even bumpier?
Yeah, because I feel like it gets harder. I feel like for some reason, it's the okay, I know God, I am in my word, I'm walking with him, and then you're learning as you grow, you're maturing, and so like there comes different tests, different trials, a wilderness season will get thrown in there, something like that, and it gets a little harder. But and I'm saying harder in the things that you face, but I think what should get easier is the level of faith you have and like how you handle hard seasons. And what I found, even for me, like the closer I am to God, even if the season is changing or shifting, I'll feel it right in my prayer life. If I'm like really close to God and I'm paying attention, I feel like he gives me a little nudge of like, all right, girl, here we go.
It's go time. Yeah.
It's embrace, like impact time, like be prepared. Put your armor on. It's time to fight. And so once I've learned that and I got to like, oh, okay, we got a little groove. We're figuring this out. Okay, is something coming? All right, I might cry about it, but I'm able to fight a little easier. So good. I feel like it gets harder.
Yeah,
that's my answer.
I think that it's just a matter of life. You know, we are not exempt from the things that happen in life. I wish we were, but while we are here, things are going to happen, you know, and the Bible says that the sun shines for believers and unbelievers, and the rain comes for believers and unbelievers, you know, like it's just a part of the world that we're living in. Yeah. So it is not specifically to us. Yes. You know, it is not necessarily that God is just waiting for you to get here, and I'm like, well, it's kind of rough now. You know, I don't think that it is that, but it is also not I just made a decision for Jesus and now everything is perfect, because that is not how it works either. So I think that you're gonna experience both things. You're gonna experience great stuff, and you're gonna experience things that you wish you didn't. And I don't think that speaks of God's character or love or desire for your well-being. You know, it is not that he desires anything less, or that he's mad at you, so now you have a trial, and you know, like stuff like that. Like I think a lot of people feel like I am going through something bad because I must have done something, and now God is teaching me a lesson. No, we have a good Father. You know, the Bible says that was a verse that we shared yesterday, that all the good things that we have come from God. Every good and perfect gift come from above. Like what we have that is good is the blessings from God. But we're in the world, you know, so sickness is gonna come, and death is gonna come, and disappointment is gonna come, and we are not exempt from that. But like Ari said, what we have is the hope of knowing that we are not at it alone, that he is with us. So we don't have that. I love how the Bible just really prepares you for it. You know, it tells us that we don't grieve like those that have no hope. Like in the hard stuff of life, we have hope. You know, like Jesus said, in the world you will have trouble, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. So like in this world, it's not gonna be good, but after this, I won, so you're gonna be okay. So if you can just hold for a little bit, you will be all right. So I think that it is just how you see it, and how you allow God to show up in those moments.
That's good.
Are you gonna be coming closer to Him, or are you gonna try to keep Him at arm's length because you feel like He's the one that caused all of this in your life?
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. So that brings me to my final question. How do we cope as believers? Like, how should we cope? And maybe what's one thing you do to cope with during difficult times? So we're not doing the complaining, or we're not, just shutting down, or, not reaching out. Like, what do we do that we found to be very beneficial in seasons that are difficult as believers? What have you practiced?
For me, I love worship music. I love worship music. And I know that when I am feeling some sort of a way, like there's times that I've just, all of the emotions, and I feel the anxiety, and I feel the rage, and I feel whatever it is that I am feeling. Like, there's times that I have to say to myself out loud, "Soul, you just need worship." And I get up and I just play something. And there's times that I just go back to like the old school, my old songs that I used to sing in Mexico, and I'm like, okay, you just need to snap out of it, with something that it is gonna fill your soul.
Yeah.
And then you start just worshiping, and there's just something beautiful that happens in that moment when you really just allow your spirit to connect with God, and you just put everything else on the side and say, okay, we will figure that out later, but right now I just need to connect with God. And for me, that happens really with worship. And then after I finish worship, while you're worshiping, you're kind of praying. That's how it happens for me. Like, I cannot just sing one song. Like, as I'm singing, like, things come, and I just start talking to God, right? That's even on Sunday mornings. Like, I sing a little bit, I talk a little bit, and sing a little bit, and talk a little bit. But for me, that, and then after that, if I feel led in the moment, then I would read the Bible and stuff. But for me, worship and praying just brings me to God. And then it's in that I sometimes feel like God is showing me, like, this is where you were, and this is what you've been thinking. Like, can we change that? And I cannot tell you how many times I finished those moments of worship just feeling so much better, so much lighter, with more clarity in my mind to say, okay, this is not gonna be like this forever, and or I was just angry for no reason. I need to just really just settle down, or like you don't have to go all the way there with your thinking. You just need to bring it back a little. But for me, all of that happens in worship.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah,
that's really good.
What about you, Ari?
Oh man, I feel like what I have to do at this point in my life, I have to stop and like assess what's going on, because I feel like in the past I would just like, okay, God, like this is that, like, and I'm throwing things at it to like solve it or like feel better, and not even knowing what's going on. And so I feel like I have to assess, like, okay, what is it that I'm feeling? What is wrong? Like, what is it that I feel like is going wrong in this season, or like in this moment? And what do I need to do to combat this? And so taking that moment to like pause and breathe and understand what's going on with me and what's going on around me, I feel like it helps me to approach it with some sort of order, I guess, in a sense. And for me, that like I have to have order. And so once I understand, like, okay, no, you're feeling anxious in this moment. What does the Bible say about being anxious? Okay, you need to pray. Like, and so now we're going into prayer, and oh, okay, no, I need to worship over here. No, I need community, and I need to be around somebody so I'm not overthinking or replaying thoughts in my mind or trying to figure this out and like I'm wrong or they're wrong or whatever. And so like I have my things that I have to do: community, pray, worship, and I just assess to see what I need in that moment. And then I go and do that, and then I come back and assess again, like, okay, do we need something else? Okay, nope, we're good. We got it. So that's where I have been, and it's been really helpful.
I like that. You kind of choose what you need in that moment.
Yeah,
I like that.
What about you? What do you do?
I binge watch movies, and I'm just playing.
And sometimes
ice cream.
take a nap.
Take a nap.
Like,
So,
seriously.
I think for me, I have that moment where I admit, like, this is a hard day, or situation is hard. If it's a day, I feel like sometimes God told me, just take a nap. Just stop what you're doing. It'll be fine tomorrow. Like, you're making this way bigger than what it
Naps
is.
fix everything.
It fix everything.
They do.
Beautiful. Yes. But if it's a season, I love to cling to my community. Community is really big for David and I, and especially for me. Just being able to go get on the couch with a sister and just talk or not talk, or, watch a movie or not, pray, whatever I need. Like, it's good to be around people who I know want to want to see me do well, or have the best interests for me, and I can just be myself. Like, I don't have to put on a show or act like I have it all together. I can kind of like vent, get off my chest, and just sit. And I like moments like that. And so community helps me because I can get whatever I need: prayer, good discussion, encouragement, edification, and that really helps me. They help realign my focus when I'm in those seasons. So I like community.
Yeah. So is it easy for you to open up?
Now I'm probably too open. Because I was once more like you, where and I know you're not. You're working hard to get out of that. So I'm not going to say that you're still there.
I'm trying, okay?
You're doing a good job.
You're doing good. I think so. As your sister, I think you are. But I was kind of raised in a home where you don't share what's going on with you, and what goes on in this house, it stays in this house. And so being raised in that environment, I went into marriage like that. I went into my home situation and environment like that with Neo and David. And so when we were going through, it was like, we still sit out the fine china when people come over. I don't care if we only have, like, this is our only meal for the week. We're going to act like we eat like this all the time. And so I realized not sharing or pretending that I was in a place that I was not was more hurtful. And I would try to look for outlets to escape the reality of what was going on in my life. And it wasn't until I was set free and discovered what freedom really looked like in Jesus Christ, where it was like all of those weights came off, and it was like, no, I'm going to share at every moment, because I don't want to create a loophole for the enemy in any regard to come in the secrecy of my life and wreak havoc. So if I have to find an accountability partner, talk with David, talk with a sister, like, I'm just going to overshare and see what happens. Because I don't want to live with those thoughts in my mind. Yeah. Because that's where the enemy starts to come in and tell you lies, or make you feel like you have to be something that you're not. And you can't find healing when you're pretending that everything is okay and it's not. So yeah, I have to overshare. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think
sorry, friends.
I think that for me, like, something that has been changing, it is not necessarily that I am open with everybody, but it is finding the people that you feel like you can share, and different people have different capacity for your sharing. That's because I don't think that you should pretend with anybody. No, you know, like that is not something that I am up for. Like I don't like to pretend to be one person and not. But not everybody has the same capacity or the same into your life as somebody else. And some people might just have the, hey, just pray for me, and you leave it at that. Yes. And some people might get a little more detail about that, and some people get a little more detail about that, and there might be another person that gets the full story. And I think that all of that is okay, and I think that it is very important and very wise to figure it out, who has the the little version of it, who has the I give you a 10% and who has a 50% and who can actually have your 100%.
Yeah.
Because not everybody will be ready, or not everybody should get your 100%.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that everybody understands the journey. But like you said, like you have to find the people that are committed to see you succeed, that will be with you no matter what. Yeah. People that are not gonna hear the raw things of your life and be like, man, like they're wrong. You know, like they really need help. Yeah. Like you need somebody that is really gonna be there for you, that is gonna lift your hands when you truly cannot. And somebody that is gonna be there to celebrate. Because sometimes you just need your celebrators. You know, you just need the people that are just going to throw a party and they're great at that. And that's all we do. Like, every time that I come with you, like, we're going to celebrate good things. Yeah. And some people that are great at just listening and embracing, and you know that you can come to them when life is hard. Yeah. So I think that you need people in every category.
That's a great lesson, though. And I think it's even more important for us working in ministry to know that, because you really have to be careful not to bleed on people because you don't know what that impact will be. So, like, if you were to go and say, I hate everything about my church, and they're blah, 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 and they're already struggling in their faith, or they're struggling with a decision to stay here or go here or wherever, then that could, like, change the direction of their decisions and, like, what they're thinking. And so you have to be really careful about that, which is why I always say, like, that assessment part is super important, because before I come and say something that, like, I hadn't thought through, and, like, I see the bad impact of what I say, like, I have to sit and assess it before I even share it, so I can be clear about what I'm saying, so you don't get the wrong idea, but also I'm not sending you off in another tangent, because it could very well do something to that person that you're sharing to. And so just being careful about that, but that prayer and that, like, alone time with God to say, like, am I chirping God? Like, what is going on with me? Okay, is it anger? Let me give it to you before I give it to someone else, because I don't want to impact someone and then I'll have to end up repenting for it later. So that's really important.
Ooh, that's so good. Well, you guys both gave me a lot to think about. I don't know about you guys watching. Maybe let us know down in the comments below what part of this sermon, or not sermon, but conversation got you to thinking about difficult seasons in your life and how you deal with that in areas you may want to grow in. Any last remarks, ladies?
I would just want to say that emotions aren't bad. Emotions left on their own, that's what is bad. But feelings are not. We all have them, we'll experience them, and we should be intentional in understanding them. I think that like what I said yesterday is that our emotions are a signal inside of our bodies telling us that something is important to us. So if you're starting to feel something, pay attention to what you're feeling. Don't try to suppress it. So remember that feeling is not bad. Feelings left unchecked can be catastrophic. So feel, but be careful what you feel and how you handle those feelings.
That was so good. So Mic drop, if you can drop.
There's nothing to add.
Everyone will be mad at me if I drop the mic.
No, well, don't drop the mic, but it was dropped. The mic was dropped on that. And so with that, we're going to close. But we thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Let us know how we did, because we were without Pastor Brent today. But thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.